Hi, my name is Eric. Welcome to Epic Nation Podcast, a platform for me to pick the brains of amazing humans who are creating social impact through their life and work. This is where passions, vocations, and professional lives meet. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest because we share something in common. We were both students from SMU, Singapore Management University, and we both volunteered for the same social enterprise. Established in October 2017, Safe Space helps people get remote counselling services through a mental health ecosystem that provides talk therapy and preventive education. To date, Safe Space has served about 10,000 clients and has plans to expand its range of services in the mental health space. Passionate about transforming business with technology and people as the driving force, she started out as a volunteer for Safe Space before going full-time as the COO of the company. Let's welcome Lynette Seow.
Hello.
Yay!
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I'm so happy to have you on the show. I think we met during the volunteer appreciation party, I think not too long ago before you went on your travel to America, right?
Yeah, that was a great time. We had a great session meeting you.
It was my first time meeting the team actually of volunteers and of course the founder of Safe Space, Internet. So it was really my honor to really meet the team after months of volunteering for you guys. And when I first saw you, my first impression is that you exude this warmth and energy that was so infectious. So maybe you can tell me, are you always this open-hearted and cheerful in life?
Well, I didn't know that it was your first impression, but thank you for that. That was also my first impression of you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
I feel like the whole vibe of the gathering, the volunteer gathering was so nice and very heartfelt, and it feels like everybody had like a purpose on why they're there.
Exactly. So
Lovely.
we meet. I mean, the volunteers, like you can tell from the gathering, um, it's just coming together with a bunch of people who are very genuine and genuinely passionate about mental health, and the motivation is to make an impact first before anything else. This authenticity just comes through even in the socials.
Well, during the gathering, everybody has a story, right? And everybody has a motivation as to why they wanted to volunteer their skills, their time for Safe Space. And I believe that there is a strong trust and belief that Safe Space is the platform that can enable and empower mental well-being for everyone, right? So tell us a little bit more about yourself and really what you do at Safe Space.
In one sentence, it's whatever else the CEO doesn't do, I guess. So we split.
Nice.
Thankfully,
Okay.
our skills. So thankfully, Anto's skills and mine are super complementary. So whatever I hate doing, like sales and marketing, so she does, and whatever she hates doing, I love doing. So it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually having complementary skill sets for partners are actually quite important, right?
Yeah. And what we were talking about actually just I think yesterday was also how we view everything differently in terms of how we look at a certain email that comes through, whether it's an opportunity or whether it's like something to ignore. Um, and we're just saying we're so grateful that we have, I guess, differing instincts to something that we can cover more perspectives like that. So different complementary skill sets, different perspectives, complementary, I guess, personalities as well, but ultimately aligned in the goal of what we want to do. So we always go back to our shared goals, and then these differences become strengths instead of like a wedge to drive things apart.
Yes, that's super important as well. I think in a partnership or in a team, identifying our own strengths and helping one another, amplify those strengths are very important. And especially because we have very unique skill set, then we are able to bring different perspectives to the table. And I really appreciate that of the team in my time volunteering for Safe Space. I realized that the team is so diverse, right? We have so many people with different skill sets and different perspective and even different notion of what mental health means to them.
Like you said, right? In a startup, there's always something to do. So when
Yes,
I
there's always
speak
something to
to
do.
yeah, so when I speak to interested volunteers, I start with, yeah, what's your skills, but also what's your interest. Do you want to continue building your skills, or learn something new, and then see how to bridge that, because there's definitely something for you to do.
How did the journey in Safe Space start for you?
Okay. So last year, mid of last year, about June, with COVID, and at that time I was still in my corporate job at IBM. I was saving a lot of traveling time. And because I'm working from home, right? I was saving at least like 3 hours of traveling a day. So I was like, okay, what do I do with this extra time? And then I knew that mental health was an area that I was interested in, yeah, as well as in entrepreneurship. So I spent about a month doing desktop research about the mental health industry globally, what's the trend, what companies are out there, all that kind of stuff. And then after a month of sitting behind my desk, I said, okay, let's get my hands dirty. I remember hearing about Safe Space through I think a crowdfunding campaign that they did in 2019. And at that point in time, I had actually connected with Ento, the founder, on LinkedIn, but I didn't send her any message then. So I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's do it now. So I dropped her a note on LinkedIn and said, hey, I'm interested in mental health. Here's my CV. I love the stuff that you're doing. Can I help out in any way? So that was it. We had a chat, and I came on board as a to help out with the product side. So we were rebuilding the current platform and just building that up, to have video calls and allow our own booking of appointments and all that. So I started with that. Loved it. Loved it from day one. It was just really fun
Yes.
working with the team. I guess out of maybe sheer luck.
Or fate,
Yeah, I guess so.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So in, I think about November, I think. So I got noticed that I was going to be retrenched. The options were to look for a transfer internally to another department, to, I guess, yeah, look for another corporate job. But the one I secretly wanted was to work fully with Safe Space. And just at that time, we just closed our seed round of funding, and yeah, and it was also going full time then. So we
Nice.
just decided to make that happen.
Jump into it.
Yeah,
But in the process of maybe being retrenched, I believe that was a very hard reality to deal with, right? But one door closes, another door open.
yeah. And so,
So
so the whole retrenchment thing was, I mean, it was strange in terms of, it does make you question, for example, your competence and things like that. But at the same time, actually, because I had been working with or volunteering at Safe Space then, and I was more conscious about wanting to become a mental health advocate. And to me, that meant also being more open about my personal mental health challenges. So in this case, I acknowledged the self-esteem issues that came with the news, and then I reached out to people. That allowed me to kind of get over it, to not close up myself, but to start reaching out to people and ask about other opportunities as well, um, before deciding on Safe Space. And the feedback or the response and how generous people were with their time and like referring me for jobs and giving advice or just being supportive was amazing. So
but it
yeah.
seems like you have a very strong resilience in overcoming the setback that was your retrenchment back then. But what about for people who maybe are, stuck in a very long drawn depression or long phase of anxiety? What advice would you actually give them?
I think at different points in time, even regular people will also find it hard to bounce back. It's not something super uncommon actually. I think it's very prevalent across society. I guess as a first step is kind of acknowledging that you might be struggling a bit. For example, when people ask how are you, we always automatically say, "Oh, I'm good, fine, I'm okay." Actually, thinking about that question and answering it genuinely also opens up genuine conversations with whoever is asking you that question. We are very afraid of like the response from the other person's side.
Or from being judged, right?
Yeah, yeah. But people are more
Mm.
receptive than we think or give them credit for.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, through this pandemic, if anything positive that happened, it would be that there is this collective awareness, right? That everyone is actually just very kind. We are just so open about giving and so open about helping one another to to survive this pandemic. especially when we are all on circuit breaker, and so many of us, including myself currently, I'm on quarantine order. There is this lack of human connection that is forced because of the pandemic, and because of that, people are more united. People are more caring. We see people sending care packs, right? And then we've seen an uptake on people doing good as well. So can I ask you, one of the LinkedIn posts that you posted, you mentioned that you have lucked out in finding a place such as Safe Space that lets you merge passion and purpose. So what does it mean for you to be passionate and purposeful at work?
Okay, so work has always been very important to me. I think so. This was since young. My dad always told me that if I enjoyed my job, I wouldn't work a single day in my life. I still do think that. Um, so I always wanted to find a job that I like to do, and I have been fortunate enough to have had jobs like that. But I used to think that enjoying work meant being intellectually stimulated. So if it's challenging, I get to solve interesting problems. That is enjoyment. And I did get that from my previous roles, and I did enjoy the roles. But what I've realized is that while it was intellectually stimulating, it was not soul satisfying. And that adds a whole different dimension. So that I've realized since joining Safe Space that, yeah, this really adds a whole different dimension to the meaning of work. And because we spend so much time at work, the meaning of your life almost. So Safe Space has really been a place where, yes, I found passion and purpose coming together, but I do want to add another P, which is people. This was something that was a draw. You also shared about your experience just at the volunteer appreciation dinner, meeting everybody who has helped us out and is still helping us out um, at Safe Space, and the people are amazing. So yeah, I really lucked out in getting involved with this. Every day, I'm grateful that to be part of this incredible journey, working with a fantastic team that's with people who are passionate about mental health and who have the shared common goal or common purpose about making meaningful impact on society.
What advice would you give for people who want to be in this blissful state that you are in right now, where work and purpose actually merge, where being in safe space actually means so much to you that waking up every morning, right?
Yeah.
That gives you this drive to continue going.
Yeah. So I can't write a user manual for this. Like I always say, I lucked out. And while you cannot plan luck, you can prepare yourself to be ready to take advantage of opportunities that come through. So when I started getting an interest in mental health as a cause, then I started being more aware of like the news that was coming, that was going out about around mental health. So that was how I heard about Safe Spaces crowdfunding campaign back in 2019. And then also out of school, because I was interested in entrepreneurship from the start, I did think about joining a startup like after graduation, but I decided to go the MNC route first. One was around building your skills, continually building a skill set. Second is around being aware of what is going on in the course that you're interested in. And actually, I should have started with this as one. One is to reflect for yourself to figure out what is meaningful to you, not what is the hot topic out there and that will fizzle out over 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, but what connects with you personally because of whatever experience you might have had, or anything that compels you that I want my legacy to be something around this.
I think that in the process of finding that purpose, there's also a lot of trial and error as well.
Yeah,
Am I right?
yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's really putting yourself out there to try different things and to see what sticks.
I think another perspective or attitude that I would recommend is in this journey of, I guess, discovering where you're supposed to be in life or something like that, to not be too focused on outcomes that you can see. So, for example, when I started as a volunteer at Safe Space, I had no key outcomes.
Agenda.
Yeah, no agenda. Yes, exactly. No agenda. I genuinely just wanted to get involved in the industry and have that experience on the ground, working close to mental health as a cause. And then everything else just fell into place. And yeah, not having those expectations, yeah, both for yourself and for the people that you meet. Things like networking, right, get such a bad rep, but ultimately instead of going into those conversations with yeah, an agenda or some kind of expectation of what you want to get out of it, just focus on enjoying the interaction or the experience, and then you gain so much more. You don't know how you're going to end up using that.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. All right, so we move on to another topic. Because of COVID-19, traffic on your platform has increased by 64%. A report also stated that the Samaritans of Singapore, a suicide prevention center, has experienced 36% increase in the volume of call for help during the circuit breaker period. So with your involvement as a volunteer for Safe Space since 2020 till being a COO now, how do you think the awareness for mental health has grown in this short period of time?
Okay. So, as you can tell from my stories, I like to look at the positives out of negative situations. Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah, and one positive thing to come out of a sucky situation like the pandemic has been the openness to conversations around mental health. I believe that there was always silent, dormant demand for mental health help, but people are afraid to reach out because either they're not aware of what help is available, or there's self stigma, or they just think that they're afraid of being judged by, I guess, the society. This has been normalized to a certain extent with the pandemic, and I think there's three main positive outcomes that have come out of how mental health awareness has grown, yeah, with COVID. So the first is around an increased openness to talk about mental health challenges. It's now part of the national agenda. The government is explicit about saying that this is something that we should prioritize and that has real impact on lives and economy. Um,
Mm.
so now it's part of regular conversations, and the average person on the street has actually, I guess, even heard of the term mental health or mental wellness.
Mm. Mm.
Secondly, is with more conversations, the understanding of what mental health comprises has also or entails has improved. So, for
Mm.
example, my parents now recognize that struggling with your mental health doesn't mean you're crazy. I think that's a common misconception or impression that people used to have.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that has changed. And the third one is around being proactive to take action. So both by individuals to seek help. So a lot of our clients that we see on the platform are actually trying out therapy for the first time, and we really applaud their courage in stepping forward to ask for help, because ultimately, even if we have help, we still uh, the individual would still need to reach out. It's like reaching out your hand, right? You also need to grab it. um, and action on the side of corporations as well, and corporate employers, where they are more driven now to provide help
Mm.
through partners like Safe Space, to help their employees' mental health, especially with like working from home and changes in just the whole uncertain environment that we're in.
And it's also because of the pandemic, right, that it really escalated the need for such a service. And I'm very grateful for you guys being there since the time when, mental health issue was not that well known yet.
Mhm.
And I'm very glad that Safe Space actually provides an end-to-end solution to people across the spectrum,
Mhm.
not only with for people with serious depressive thoughts, but at the same time you guys do preventive measures as well, because prevention is better than cure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys have talk therapy and also educational services that help people prime themselves and be more resilient when times like COVID or times like the circuit breaker happen. You equip them with all these mental tools and resources to get them prepared in case they get too stressed out at work or they get too stressed out at home, right? To really cope with these challenges as they come. So maybe you can share with us, how do you think your work at Safe Space has contributed to the awareness and the growth in people's mental capacity in Singapore, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you touched on it already. It starts with education. So the first step of awareness is about education. Recognizing that um, a mental health issue doesn't mean that you're crazy. And then all the nuances behind it. How everybody has mental health, like physical health, right? And differences in different situations or personality types can result in a person struggling with things like anxiety, depression, etc. So we've done a lot on the education space, and that's very important to us. So there are things like we do regular free webinars conducted by our therapists that are open to the public. So you can see all the upcoming ones on our social media. So there's that. We also provide education on therapist-led workshops or any webinars for our corporate clients on specific topics that they have identified are key and relevant to their employees. So there's on this part of the spectrum. The other one is around community involvement. How we get involved in the community to spread awareness. And this one example would be what we talked about just now, Mindful Hacks, which is the student-run mental health tech hackathon that was run last month. Getting people to get their hands dirty on working on something. The interest in mental health, especially from I guess from the youth, um, is very prevalent, and it's also about creating a space for them to explore that interest.
Nice. I really like how you take various prong approaches to raise the awareness of mental health through the platform that is Safe Space. We often talk about how certain social change cannot be done by one person,
Mm,
but the collective effort
yeah.
of many, right? And I'm glad that it started there with the government agenda of pushing for better mental health and more awareness for it, and followed by businesses. You guys talk to corporate leaders, and corporations who have a keen interest in bettering the employees' mental health, as well as making them feel valued at the workplace, right? By giving them tools to cope with certain stresses and cope with certain unforeseeable life events. I think that's also very important as well, because mental health actually impacts productivity and ultimately the bottom line,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And
So,
there's a real business case to invest in mental health.
mm,
Every dollar spent on mental health support for employees has been shown to have a $4 ROI. There is a case in that. Then there are things around absenteeism, presenteeism, and then work. Yeah, like you said, work productivity while people are at work. There is still a gap in terms of support that companies are providing to their employees. So, for example, with the pandemic, about 79% of employees actually say that their mental health has declined as a result of the pandemic and working from home and that uncertainty. But only about 28% of HR managers have a corporate mental health strategy in place.
mm,
The
mm,
positive
mm.
side of this, I always go back to the positives, is
Yes,
that
I love
there
it.
is
Yeah.
interest in bridging that gap. And that's where some of our corporate clients have come to us to kind of work together to see how else they can support their their
Mm.
employees. And yeah, it's really good to see that that is the intention and a priority for companies more and more nowadays.
Where do you think that gap comes from?
Not being aware that their employees are struggling with this, maybe around like not monitoring it in the first place, not being conscious to ask about that. You only ask, I don't know, about job satisfaction, right? But not about mental health. And that might be due to factors outside work.
Also, I feel that because it's such a taboo or a stigma, even up till now, maybe not so much for the younger generation of people who, seem to be okay talking about their feelings and mental health. But for the older folks, where, talking about feelings can almost seem like you're being weak
Yeah,
or you're being incompetent at work,
yeah,
right? When you tell people that, okay, I need to take a mental health break, I need
mm.
to
Yeah,
take an
exactly.
MC because my mental health is not keeping up with me.
Yeah.
So, how do you think corporations can help overcome this problem of stigma and really encourage people to place more emphasis on taking care of their minds?
But we need to look at individuals as entire persons coming to work. So there is that gap in terms of first realizing that they need to understand the mental state of their employees, and then think about policies and services that they can incorporate to support them. So just to give some examples of how we look after the mental health of our team at Safe Space, we do quarterly mental health surveys around various aspects that could impact a person's mental. So the job environment, the work environment, finances, etc. And we actually do take uh, action based on that feedback. So, for example, there are some members in our team who shared that finances was something that was causing them stress because at that time they had some medical bills that they had to pay. So what we did was organize personal finance training for them. So making sure we also have to be very aware that we're not seen as just paying lip service to our to say, oh yeah, you do a mental health survey and nothing ever gets done about it. So taking that feedback seriously and doing something about it in a demonstrable way is important. Another example of a mental health initiative that we have internally is a quarterly mental health day off. So you have to take a day for self-care and to look after yourself.
I strongly believe that mental health, even not even just mental health policies, right, across the board, it has to start from the leadership, and it has to start from the management taking a very serious stance on various issues. And I really appreciate you saying that mental health is not just mental health, right? It encompasses a lot of other aspects of our life as well, because we are seen as a whole. But because of all of these responsibilities of being human, as essentially as the condition of being human, it is important, right, for employers to see your employees as a whole rather than
Yeah.
just a cog in a machine. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the existence of your platform actually encompass not just the preventive and the talk therapy aspect of mental health. You prime people throughout the entire life journey, right? In building the mental resilience. I believe you guys are going to start other things like maybe certain workshops, certain therapy that is not even mental health related, but a
So
complementary to that.
it's interesting that you mentioned the resilience topic because we actually do have a skills future course that we co-created with Neon Poly around building mental resilience and growth mindset. So that is actually also live already. It's a self-paced course, about 7 hours, and yeah, with all the skills with the regular skills future subsidies like up to 90% for citizens and PRs above 40.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm sure there's also potential in the space of life coaching, right? Where, we are not just really playing defense in our mental health, but we're taking an active approach to self-development and building awareness in having a happier life, basically.
Yeah, I always like to use the analogy of a gym trainer. Why shouldn't we have a gym trainer for our mental health? We can do that for
Lovely.
physical health.
Yeah, and with and with gym training, it is actually very tough on
Yeah.
on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But the effect of being tough on ourselves and having like discipline to increase that mental capacity really helps deliver positive results in all aspects of our life. So, what is the team's long-term vision for Safe Space, and how does it really fit with you personally on the purpose of your life?
So ultimately, we want to be an ecosystem that bridges various stakeholders in the mental health space. It's such a gigantic issue, right? No one company or institution can solve everything around it. So we believe very strongly in partnerships with government, with insurance, with hospitals, with research institutions. There are so many players in the landscape that kind of need to be brought together to work on a common goal. So yeah, ultimately it's building up that ecosystem. for all the numbers that we talk about around like user growth, revenue growth, etc., all the business metrics, they are important. But that high or that satisfaction when you get a testimonial from an individual client whom you have helped, saying that I'm so grateful for the existence of Safe Space, that I was able to um, get the help that I required and turn my life around.
Love it, love it.
That really is a highlight that supports like the purpose that we are of why we're in this space of actually making um, differences to individuals' lives.
I really appreciate that you guys exist, and I hope that you guys continue the good work that you are doing. And I wish the very best for you guys, for the team. Okay, so with that, we end the conversation, and I'd like to thank you so much for being so sporting and being with us today. And have a great evening. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you
Thanks,
so
Eric.
much. Okay,
Bye.
thanks. Bye. If our content resonates with you, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe to our channel on all platforms that this podcast is on. This is Epic Nation, a project by the folks at Epic Dialogue, a Singapore-based marketing agency that helps change-making businesses create social impact through our sustainability branding, communications, and digital marketing solutions.